if she didn't think about it at the time of writing the books, then what does that say about that aspect of Dumbledore's character in terms of the books?
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So what's she trying to do to the books now, afterwards?
Make them more inclusive.
Recontextualize them.
Meaning?
Putting details in the background that weren't there in the original writing of them.
Okay. What else? I mean, I'm entirely with you, Caitlin, about, she's trying to be inclusive. For what purpose?
To, I guess, resell her books. They're not selling like they used to.
Are they not selling like they used to? Well, I mean, there's basic reasons for that also, in that they're not new like they were. I mean, 2007, people were...
And a lot of people, if you want Harry Potter, they own it already. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so why doesn't she do what other authors repeatedly have done throughout history?
Like write a prequel?
No. Revise it. Go and write an actual revision.
And she
Probably doesn't want to put in the work.
Is it that? Or is it because some people will say she's just trying to make another buck? Because guaranteed, and I'll be the first one in line, if she revises these, I'll buy every damn one. Okay? Why? Because I'll be, unless I retire before then, because I'll probably be teaching, and I'll still be teaching this stuff. Let me rephrase that. Might be the first one in line. Because if she were to revise it, and were to revise it according to everything she has kind of publicly said since 2007, I don't know that I would buy them. Because what she said since 2007, some of it at least, really alters what she's done in the original books. Especially if you think of taking into account also the films.
Her stories are so closely woven that it's just like to try to like loosen that and add stuff in it. It's no like it's kind of no room. You know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think she could revise and make corrections without a problem. I mean, I think there are some problems in some of the writing she could do. I think she could go and she could easily do a set of prequels. And make just another $1 billion overnight.
You were talking about how like the Lily and James, like that would be awesome.
Not how they met, because we know how they met. It wasn't pretty, but how they overcome that.
And how they defeat Voldemort 3 times.
There's a lot. Okay, the First Order of the Phoenix, the first Voldemort's whole first rise to power. That could be Marvel would have nothing on that. I mean, if Marvel can come up with 22 films based on frickin' comic books, please.
I don't know. Infinity War is probably going to make a lot of money.
From what I read this morning, they're expecting $950 million
It's just
first
so freaking
week.
crazy.
I've never even bought tickets to a
So
premiere
like
opening,
pre-show, like
but I
did.
just had to this time.
oh, I had my tickets.
I had
I'm
my
in the
tickets.
front row, but I got them.
I had my tickets 3 weeks ago.
Well, like I said, in the U.S. it's supposed to be over $650 million. It's also opening same night in China. First time simultaneous opening. China's got 1 billion people. They're expecting $250 million right there. So they're expecting $1 billion first week opening.
I would not be surprised at all. If they
I think it'll be over that. I think it'll be over that. I read a little thing this morning because I'm a Marvel fan. Chris Evans talked about crying 6 times at the premiere the other day in L.A.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real. I don't want.
And they shot it simultaneously with the Infinity War. So everything's been done for 2 years, or a year and a half, whatever. Okay, let's pick up with.
One more question. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Have you watched the Fantastic Beasts movies?
No.
Because the ending of the second.
I tried the first one, and it.
Isn't You know what I'm talking about? The second one? Does anyone watch that?
Yes.
With the whole you're a Dumbledore.
Yeah. I was like, what was that?
And now someone's telling me that's his son, but like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, picking up with the chapter Deathly Hallows, the end of it, I would say. Chapter 23 is actually where we're going to pick up. Because where we left off, they were listening to the radio and they heard Lupin talking and they heard Kingsley talking. And then, Harry's kind of feeling good because Lupin's back in the folds, so to speak. So they get captured and they get taken off to Malfoy Manor, chapter 23. Okay? Hermione does the spell on Harry so he doesn't look like Harry immediately. And I'm going to pick up with several pages in. So this is going to be about 370, somewhere around 454, 455. Okay. Harry sees Narcissa scrutinizing his swollen face. Scabior thrusts the blackthorn wand at her. She raises her eyebrows. She says, "Bring them in." And Narcissa says, "Follow me. My son Draco is home for his Easter holidays. If that is Harry Potter, he will know." Why does she call those his Easter holidays? Why does she call it spring break? This is 1990s. Okay? 1990s, quote-unquote, Britain. And it's a wizarding world. Wizards wouldn't celebrate Easter, you wouldn't think. Okay? It's just a little detail. When this book first came out, there's a big article in Time magazine with a guy, the article author's name, it was an article/interview. His name's Lev Grossman. He did an interview with Rowling, and he asked her point blank. I mean, it's like the very first question. Where's God in Harry Potter? Where's God in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? You killed him. She's like, what? What do you mean I killed him? And he said, there's no God at all, anywhere. And they kind of go back and forth, and she goes, he's not as absent as you think he is. Okay? This guy's a literary critic. He's also a fantasy writer. And when she says to him, he's not as absent as you think he is, what she's really saying is, you're not a very astute reader. Okay? She's not saying, well, just look for the word, man. It's there all over. It's not thank Thanos, it's not thank Zeus, it's not thank Dumbledore, So, we'll get to that in a moment. So, the Easter holidays. So, they asked Draco. I mean, how well is Narcissa Malfoy going to recognize Harry? How many times has she seen him? Just the once.
Yeah, but also, he is a recognizable person.
His face has been on the papers. But you got to be absolutely sure. She's only seen him physically at the Quidditch World Cup, right? And even then, it's probably not even real
And the robe
close.
shop.
Yes, twice.
They've seen it a couple times.
Robe shop, which was long before.
Okay. I think it's kind of stupid how when they capture Harry and they're like, well, we have to know if it's him before we tell Voldemort. Why don't they just tell Voldemort?
No. Are you kidding me? Do you not know what happens after they oh no. You're going to die if you were a
If
Death
they're
Eater. That's what would
wrong,
happen to you.
Well, if you were wrong, you killed.
Well, if you're wrong, you get killed. But if you're right, write your ticket, man.
Yeah,
But
but
it's
that's a big risk when it's Voldemort.
Yeah.
But that's like a big leader. Don't you think that's a big leadership flaw? The fact that he doesn't capture Harry because he just kills people if they get something wrong. I mean,
Well, yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to take leadership tips from Voldemort. I mean, Voldemort's not going to be teaching in any business school for it, okay? So, they ask Draco, lost my place. They asked Draco to. Why? Draco has seen Harry up close and personal many times, right? He knows what Harry looks like. Lucius, and Lucius is almost drooling. He is so excited that they might have Potter. I can't be sure. Let's go back up a little bit. So, Draco looks at Harry. Harry does not look directly at Draco, but saw him obliquely. Okay. Draco looks at Harry. His face was huge, shiny, and pink. That is Harry's face. Every feature distorted by Hermione's jinx. His black hair reached his shoulders. There was a dark shadow around his jaw. Had he not known that it was he who stood there, he would have wondered who was wearing his glasses. He resolved not to speak, for his voice was sure to give him away. Yet he still avoided eye contact with Draco as the latter approached. I can't be sure. He seemed as scared of looking at Harry as Harry was looking. Look carefully. Okay? So, Lucius asks, what'd you do to him? How did he get like this? He says, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. So Draco comes and he looks closely. There's something there. Could be the scar. Stretched tight. This is Malfoy putting this idea in Draco's mind. Okay? Come here, Draco. Look. I'm kind of like, see? Couldn't that be the scar? Harry saw Draco's face up close now, right beside his father's. They were extraordinarily alike. Except, while his father looked beside himself with excitement, Draco's expression was full of reluctance, even fear. Now, what's the difference between reluctance and fear? Reluctance is you don't want to do something. Fear is you're afraid of something. Why reluctance?
He doesn't want to. He knows if he identifies him, he's essentially signing Harry's death warrant. And he really doesn't want to be that person.
If it's reluctance, do you think, reading into it a little bit, Draco realizes this is Harry? Okay. Who else has been captured?
Ron and Hermione, that's why he knows
Yeah.
it's Harry.
Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I mean, it's there. Where the two are, the third is always, okay? So, I don't know, he says, walks away. Narcissus says, better be sure. You know, we don't want to get the big guy angry again, okay? So, they got a bunch of stuff going back and forth, and what is Bellatrix? Good idea she comes up with.
Hermione.
And Hermione and torture. Let's torture her. I mean, she's a mudblood. Doesn't matter. And what does Ron do? No. Take me instead. You can have me. Keep me. Why is that important? What's the first word used to describe Ron when Ron comes back to them? Savior. Ron is Harry's savior. Ron is here being what? Attempting at least. He's attempting to be Hermione's savior. Okay? So they take Ron and Harry off. Ron screams, Hermione, Hermione, you know, as he's being carried away. They go downstairs into the basement, cellar, dungeon. And who's down there? Luna, Ollivander. Who else? Griphook. Okay. So, we hear conversation. We hear Hermione scream as she's being tortured. And Draco's voice we hear come down. And Dobby's there. Okay. Harry tells Dobby, I want you to grab Luna. Dean Thomas is also there. Mr. Ollivander, take them. And Ron says, take them to Bill and Fleur's, etc. Okay? So, Dobby does. And who else comes down? A couple pages later. Wormtail comes down. And Harry says to him, you going to kill me after I saved your life? Because Wormtail's got him around the throat. With what? Wrong hand. Metal hand. Notice it's the left hand. It's his sinister hand. Okay? Left hand. After I saved your life, you owe me, Wormtail. The silver fingers slacken. Harry had not expected it. He wrenches himself free. He keeps his hand over Wormtail's mouth. He saw the rat-like man's small, watery eyes widen with fear and surprise. Why?
He's shocked himself for doing that.
He what did I do? He seemed just as shocked as Harry at what his hand had done. What is this like? Bingo. His hand acts what? Of its own will. Why?
Because of the bond he made. Dumbledore was talking about.
Yeah, but the hand came from who?
Voldemort. But still, it's on his body.
At the tiny, merciful impulse it had betrayed. The hand betrayed a tiny, merciful impulse. And he continued to struggle more powerfully as though to undo that moment of weakness. Okay? And what happens? The hand turns on himself. Harry tries to save him, and he can't. He was being strangled before their eyes. Okay? So, Wormtail does himself in, and Dobby comes back, gets the others out, and just before, let's see here. Dobby's helping Harry, and we hear Bellatrix call him a dirty little monkey. How dare you take a witch's wand? How dare you defy your masters? And Dobby essentially says, up yours. I have no master, etc., etc. Okay. Harry and Dobby disapparate as Bellatrix throws her knife. Last page of the chapter. Harry sees Griphook. He relinquishes Dobby's hand. He attempts to lower Griphook to the ground. Are you all right? As the goblin, He squints around. He sees the cottage. He sees the sky. Dobby, is this your cottage? He looks around. There's Dobby standing, swaying, stars reflected in his wide, shining eyes. Together, he and Harry look down at the silver hilt of the knife protruding from the elf's heaving chest. No! Help! Help! He did not know or care whether they were wizards or muggles, friends or foes. All he cared about was that a dark stain was spreading across Dobby's front, and that he had stretched out his thin arms to Harry with what? A look of supplication. What supplication? Prayer. Help me. Harry Potter. Dobby, no, don't die, don't die. And Dobby dies with what on his lips? Harry Potter. It was like sinking into an old nightmare. The elf, skip the rest of that paragraph. The elf had gone where he could not call him back. Okay? Harry realizes Dean is there, Bill and Fleur are there, Luna's there. They're all gathering around him as he kneels over Dobby. He asks about Hermione. We find out Hermione's okay. No lasting damage. He looks down at Dobby. Okay? He pulls the blade out. We hear the ocean, the sea rushing against the rocks. And we hear Harry sees Voldemort. His rage was dreadful, and yet Harry's grief for Dobby seemed to diminish it, so that it became a distant storm that reached Harry from across a vast, silent ocean. Why?
It's love.
Say it again.
It's love.
Why?
Voldemort can't. The connection between them can't really exist when Harry's feeling strong emotions of love.
Hate and love can't mix, right? What does everybody say? Love is stronger than hate. Okay? Is he learning occlumency? Literally? No. What's he learning? That's not important. Does he?
I mean, he's able to go in and out, like, for the rest of the novel.
How so? What's he really learn? Go back to book 5.
Just
What?
to give in.
It's not give in. Book 5, what must he master?
His own emotions.
Self-control. McGonagall tells him repeatedly, come on, Potter, you've got to learn to control yourself. What is occlumency? It is self-control. It's what Snape tries to teach him. Controlling your emotions, okay? Not letting them get the best of you. And Harry says, I want to do it properly. Do what properly? What's it mean, do it properly?
Manual labor.
Why? Why is that properly? He is a magician.
Because he wants to like respect Dobby and like all the hard work he's done. He wants to.
What hard work has Dobby done?
Snap his fingers a little bit.
Bingo! It's all magic. So, why is burying him manually, with his hands, with his sweat,
There's a
why
type
is
of-
that the right way to do it?
There's a type of self-sacrifice and hard work that is put into it. Dedication.
When Harry buries Dobby, what's he doing? He is emptying himself. Harry's pouring everything out of himself. Okay? You can't do that with magic. That's love. That is love. Total giving of self. Little, marriage advice. Marriage isn't 50-50. Anybody says marriage is 50-50 is lying out of their you-know-what. It's got to be 100. And if the other one doesn't give 100, guess what? Deal with it, kind of a thing. Harry gives everything here. How do we know? Not by magic. And then we hear, he dug with a kind of fury, relishing the manual work, glorying in the non-magic of it. For every drop of his sweat and every blister felt like a gift. To what? The elf who had saved their lives. In other words, Dobby did what for them? He gave everything. Literally everything. His scar burned, but he was master of the pain. Bingo. Harry's learned. He feels the pain and does what with it? He channels it. He channels it. He puts that pain to what? To work for him. He puts that pain into burying Dobby. Why? Because that son of a bitch is the one ultimately responsible for Dobby's death. He felt it, yet was apart from it. He had learned control at last, learned to shut his mind to Voldemort, the very thing Dumbledore had wanted him to learn from Snape. When does he learn that? Only when he denies his magic. And I think Rowling kind of means something by that. Why? Because I don't mean to cast any aspersions, but I don't think anybody in this room has any magical abilities. So what does that mean? We have to learn that same kind of thing. We have to learn to do what? To embrace the physical act of love, not sex. That's the easy part. The sacrifice part. The part that says, not what I want, what you want first. Which is ultimately what? Humility. Every sacrificial death is an ultimate act of humility. It's saying, your life, go back to Marvel. I watched a little 4-minute thing yesterday. It was pretty standard stuff. But, the guy saying who he thinks is definitely going to be the major sacrificial death. I won't say who, but,
Well, no, it's a theory.
it's theory, okay? I mean, bunch of people probably. I mean, we've already seen some die. Loki's dead. He's not coming back, probably. Unless, we're going to do the whole stupid time stone.
He's good at dying.
So, yeah, Loki is good at dying. So, the ultimate sacrifice. Just as Voldemort had not been able to possess Harry while Harry was consumed with grief for Sirius, so his thoughts could not penetrate Harry now. So, Voldemort doesn't know what Harry's thinking. But Harry what? Does know exactly what Voldemort's thinking. And while he's burying Dobby, what happens? Understanding blossoms in the darkness. What understanding? And he thought of Wormtail, dead because of one small, unconscious impulse of mercy. Dumbledore had foreseen that. ... How much more had he known? Because of Dobby's death, what has happened to Harry? Especially in regards to Dumbledore.
Light bulbs.
Did it begin earlier? Did it begin with the discovery of Gryffindor's sword? Not really. I mean, we know Ron comes back because he has what? Okay, the Deluminator. And it's kind of like, Dumbledore knew Ron would need that. Why? Dumbledore knew what? Ron would leave. Why? Ron's middle name, bilious, comes from the word bile, which means hot-headed. He knew Ron would split. He also knew Ron would need a way to get back. Okay? So, Harry's thinking of Dobby. Harry's thinking of Dumbledore. What else? Digs the grave. They get ready to put Dobby in. And what do? Harry wrapped the elf more snugly in his jacket. That is, Harry takes his jacket off and puts it on Dobby. Ron sits on the edge of the grave, strips off his shoes and socks, and he puts socks on Dobby's feet. Dean pulls out a hat, puts that on him. Why? This is almost a reversal of something that we see, as an example, in the last week of Christ's life. The very night of the Last Supper. What's he do? He dresses as a servant and washes the disciples' feet. In other words, they're not wearing socks, but they have sandals, Roman sandals. They pull the sandals off. Whereas Christ kind of strips himself down to just a towel, washes their feet, and then dries them with the towel he's wearing. They do what? They take clothing off of themselves and put it on Dobby before he's put in the ground. And then Luna gets the last words. Well, kind of. Thank you so much, Dobby, for rescuing me from that cellar. It's so unfair you had to die when you were so good and brave. That could be said about whom? Moody? Who else? Dumbledore? Sirius? Cedric? James? Lily? Frank? Bertha? Even though Bertha isn't brave and she's kind of stupid. What was Bertha's problem? Wrong place at the wrong time. Cedric, wrong place at the wrong time. Let's jump forward. Snape? I hope you're happy now. Ron, thanks, Dobby. Dean, thanks. Harry, goodbye, Dobby. He asks, can I stay here for a moment? They say yes. Everybody else leaves. And what does Harry do? Dobby's grave is now done, and Harry takes a stone and he cuts markings on the stone. And the stone says, here lies Dobby. What? Free how? Like in the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty. Free at last. Free of what? Free of pain. Free of suffering. Free of sorrow. Free. He looks down, his mind full of those things that had come to him. Next three words. In the grave. See, he didn't stand outside digging the grave. He dug, and then he got in, and he dug. As with several times throughout the books, Harry goes into the ground for the purpose of coming back out of the ground. It's a little death and resurrection scene. What ideas? Ideas that had taken shape in the darkness. Ideas both fascinating and terrible. Okay? So he goes in and he says, I got to talk to some people. He's got to talk to Griphook. He's got to talk to Ollivander. Okay? He remembers the piercing blue eye from the mirror. Help will always be given at Hogwarts, Dumbledore had said. He looks out over the ocean and he feels closer this dawn than ever before, closer to the heart of it all. The heart of what? The heart of what all? The prophecy? Meaning of life?
Plan.
His purpose? The plan? His scar prickles. He knows Voldemort's getting there too. Getting where? To the heart of it. What's the heart of it? Voldemort, notice Harry beat him. Mentally, he beat him. What's Harry know already at this point? Dumbledore's wand, golden snitch, my invisibility cloak. He now realizes what these are. Okay, notice he's got two of them. And what happens? He understood and yet did not understand. His instinct's telling him one thing. His brain's telling him another. Brain, logic, reason, instinct, heart. The Dumbledore in Harry's head smiled, surveying Harry over the tips of his fingers as if in prayer. Like Dumbledore going, come on, Harry, don't screw it up. You're so close. And Harry thinks, okay, so you understood Ron. You gave him the Deluminator. You gave him a way back. And if you knew, and you understood Wormtail too, you knew there was a bit of regret there. In other words, it's Luke saying to Darth Vader, there is still good in you, Father. I can sense it. No, it's too late for me, kid. And it's not too late. If you knew then, what did you know about me, Dumbledore? You knew. Am I meant to know but not to seek? Did you know how hard I'd find that? Is that why you made it this difficult? What this difficult? What has Harry become his very first year? Almost, not literally, but almost his first day at school. Why? What's he seeking? Knowledge? Wisdom? Purpose? Who am I? Okay? And he sits there and he thinks and he sees Hogwarts in his mind's eye. And what's he knows happening? Voldemort's going. So he has the talk with Griphook and Ollivander. And what is Griphook? What's the conversation with Griphook important for? Got to break into Gringotts? Okay. What about Ollivander?
Why Voldemort is looking for the mysterious Elder Wand.
The Elder Wand, the Wand of Death, the Destiny Wand, etc. And what does he tell Harry about the Wand of Destiny? You don't have to kill to master it. To master any wand, you don't have to kill the previous owner. What do you have to do? Defeat them. Which can be done with an uncommon skill, as Harry has. Okay. Harry says, I took this wand from Draco Malfoy by force. Can I use it? Whose wand is it? It's Draco's wand. What did that wand do previously? It disarmed Dumbledore. That wand is the Master Wand to the Elder Wand, therefore. Who doesn't know that? And Snape doesn't know that either, apparently. Okay? Snape didn't see it happen.
He never saw him without a wand.
True?
Because he knew the plan. What? don't know if you knew that part of the plan for why.
That wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah, it was admitted
No,
at
I
the
mean,
end
like-
in Dumbledore's debrief. He's like, I didn't foresee that.
Yeah, I didn't think Draco would be coming up there to, screw things up. Yeah,
Well, we just didn't think you'd be this
kind of, do things on the fly there. Okay? So, Harry says, so if you want it, it is more likely to do your bidding than, well, another wand? He says, yeah. Holds true for all other wands. Ollivander says. Harry, so it's not necessary to kill the previous owner. No, of course not, So, Ollivander goes on and tells Harry about the Dark Lord's wand, etc., and Hermione goes, whoa, stop, time out. So it's not a fairy tale or myth? Come on, let's deal. I mean, she's like Professor Binns, right? Let's deal with fact, history. He says, no. Whether it needs to pass by murder, I don't know. Its history is bloody, but that's simply due to the fact that it's such a desirable object and arouses passions. But no, you don't have to kill. And yeah, of course it's real. Everybody knows it's real, except for, know-it-alls. Okay? So, Harry tells Ron and Hermione what Voldemort's up to. Ron, where is it? Harry, Hogwarts. Let's go get it. Too late. He knows where it is. He's there now. It's kind of like, hold on. Yeah, he's there now. I see him over here with this eye, How long have you known this? Why have we been wasting time? Why did you talk to Griphook? We could have gone. We could still go. What's that telling us about Ron?
He wants that wand.
Power. What did the three say when Xenophilius Lovegood said rhetorically, what's the most important of the three hallows?
Ron said the wand, Harry said the cloak.
No, Harry said the stone.
Ron said the wand.
Harry said the stone.
Harry said the stone. Hermione said the cloak. Leave these two. Why did Hermione say the cloak?
Because she knows it's real. It's right.
Why? It's confers invisibility. Why is that most important to Hermione? What does Hermione do whenever a question is asked in class? She might be the shortest person in the room. Her hand is up the highest. Everybody knows her, right? Because she's a know-it-all. She wants that kind of anonymity. She could shut up, right? Have you known know-it-alls? They can't. I had lots in school. They can't shut. They can't not, if they know it. Why did Harry say the stone? Parents, man. Okay, he wants to be with his family. There's two ways. Bring them back from the dead, or I go with them. Ron talks about his brother Percy wanting power. Ron wants the wand. Okay? Why? Then he'll really outdo his brothers. Okay? So,
Classic, like I was raised by a wizarding family kind of boy. He thinks his views of house elves and goblins and all of it is very.
yeah, he's got the stereotypical mindset. Okay? So, Harry says no when Ron says we could still go. And I know we're running way out of time. Harry said no and does what? Sinks to his feet in the grass. Why? Think physicality again. Physically sinking down to his feet. He's no longer standing on his own, sinking down to his knees. He's no longer standing on his feet. This is a sign, a physical sign of humility. He is bowing down how? To Dumbledore's wish, which is Dumbledore didn't want me to have it. He didn't want me to take it. He wanted me to get the Horcruxes. Why? Because even if it gets the wand, he can't do what?
Destroy
He
Horcrux.
can't destroy Voldemort. You got to get the Horcruxes. Okay? So,
The whole hollows are like the not to see.
right. So, we're told, next chapter, very second paragraph. The enormity of decision not to race Voldemort to the wand still scared Harry. Why? He could not remember ever before choosing not to act. Choosing not to act means choosing what? Not to be Patronus Potter, not to be the savior. Okay? A couple paragraphs later, he felt that he was still groping in the dark. He had chosen his path, but still kept looking back, wondering whether he'd misread the signs, wondering whether he should not have taken the other way. What other way?
Go to Hogwarts.
Go to Hogwarts. Okay? What's he mean, groping in the dark? Kind of like Frodo and Sam going across the passage of the dead marshes. What happens if you take one wrong step? Okay? Why is he groping in the dark? He now knows what Dumbledore's plan was, kind of. Don't the runway lights suddenly light up and say, Harry, go this way? No, he still has to figure it out on his own. But what does he now have that he didn't have before? There's the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel telling him, come this way. Okay? So, we're going to skip a bunch. Whole bunch. Like Gringotts, they get the cup, final hiding place, missing mirror. They go back off to Hogsmeade. Whose eye was he seeing in the missing mirror? Aberforth. Okay, so they go off to Hogsmeade. They get, quote unquote, rescued by Aberforth. And what page is that? I think I have a note. No, I don't. Aberforth tries to tell them to do what?
Hide.
Give up. Okay? Yeah, it's over. Page somewhere around 560. Aberforth says, let it go, boy, before you follow him. Save yourself. Harry, I can't. Because why not? Come on, you're fighting too. Order to Phoenix. He says it's finished. You know who's won. It's over. Harry keeps listening to Hermione and Dumbledore, and we're told Harry kept quiet. He did not want to express the doubts and uncertainties about Dumbledore that had riddled him for months now. He had made his choice while he dug Dobby's grave. He had decided to continue along the winding, dangerous path indicated for him by Albus Dumbledore. To accept that he had not been told everything that he wanted to know, but simply to trust. In other words, what is Harry finally, in the grave, and reiterated here, decided to do? He chooses to believe. He chooses to believe. Notice, he could choose not to believe. His brother has chosen not to believe. By saying Voldemort's won, what's Aberforth saying? Darkness will descend upon the earth, and we won't be able to do anything to stop it. Okay? Harry's like, nope. And so we get the backstory about Grindelwald and Ariana and Kendra, etc. Okay? So, Aberforth says, when Hermione says, Dumbledore loved Harry, then why didn't he tell him to hide? Harry answers it. Because sometimes you've got to think about more than your own safety. Sometimes you've got to think about the greater good. Not my good, somebody else's good. This is war. Okay? We get to chapter The Last Diadem, and what do we see? We see Dumbledore's army start pouring through the mirror, the portrait. Who shows up?
Neville doesn't show up.
Neville. Okay, all of Dumbledore's army shows up, right? But that's only 25 people. Okay, who else shows up? People from the first book.
Percy.
Like Oliver, the Quidditch captain. Harry's first Quidditch team shows up. Percy finally shows up. And Fred and George accept him back, open arms. Okay? And we hear in that chapter of The Last Diadem, around 580. I'm having to do math in my head, and it doesn't work well. Someone says to Harry, Hermione says to Harry, "You don't have to do everything alone, Harry." And the people start coming out. Michael Corner comes out, All these folks do. Go to the sacking of Severus Snape. Okay. What do we see? McGonagall and Snape get into it, but what happens just before then?
Flies away like a bat.
Before then, we see one of the Caro twins spit in McGonagall's face. And Harry's underneath his invisibility cloak. McGonagall says to him, when he says we can blame it on the kids, what's the difference? The difference between truth and lies, courage and cowardice. He spits in her face. And Harry pulls the cloak off and says, "You shouldn't have done that. Crucio." It's still an unforgivable curse. Just because the evil's reigning doesn't mean it's now okay. And Harry says, I see what Bellatrix meant. You need to really mean it. What's that mean? You need to really mean it.
He felt true anger through that.
You have to really want to inflict pain. He really wants to inflict pain. Why? What happened when Harry first used that curse?
He was just righteous anger.
It was righteous anger. She says that's not going to do it. Does that mean this is evil, unrighteous anger? Nope.
No, this was just hate and malice coming out of him. He was just fed up and he wanted to take it out.
And McGonagall looked like, Potter, that was foolish. Harry, he spat at you. Why is that significant?
That's like the closest thing to an actual mother that he's had.
Or grandmother.
Yeah, that's severe disrespect.
That is rude, severe disrespect. What's this telling us about Harry's character? Bingo. Gryffindor. Through and through. Okay? She says, Potter, well, that was very gallant of you, She's like, I've never had a man stand up for my honor this way, So, skipping a bunch, we see Snape get sacked, and how does he leave Hogwarts?
Flies away like a bat.
Flies away like a bat, okay? So, we see the Bloody Baron, and why the Bloody Baron is bloody, and why he wears chains. He killed the Grey Lady, Rowena's mother, isn't it? Yeah. And why does he wear the chains? Act of penitence. Okay? And the battle rages all around. Hogwarts is getting just bombarded. End of that chapter. If Dobby's death didn't give you, you've got a heart of stone. If this one doesn't get you, you're not alive. Harry grabbed Hermione's hand as they staggered, stumbled over stone and wood. No, 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 someone was shouting. No, Fred, no. And Percy was shaking his brother, and Ron was kneeling beside them. And Fred's eyes stared without seeing, the ghost of his last laugh still etched upon his face.
I found a bit of foreshadowing this chapter, too.
Fred.
Where?
I'm on this. It's still in here. It's whenever they come out and Tonks is like, have you seen Remus? And
Yep.
so on and so forth. He said they'll be all right, even though he knew they were empty words.
Yep. So,
I'm mad at Tonks and Remus for being there first.
Harry tries to get Percy off of, Fred and such. And towards the end of the chapter, The Elder Wand, around page 655 or so, we have a conversation between Voldemort and Snape. And Voldemort's like, damn, I really don't want to do this, but sorry, Sev. You gotta die, And he's like, my lord? Okay. Harry shows up there. Last words, look at me. And we see Snape die, and he gives Harry what?
His memories.
The prince's tale. So what does Harry have to do now? He can't just take the memory and go, plug it in like a USB drive. He's got to go find the damn pensive, It's not like he can carry one in his pocket. Okay? And what does the memory do? How far back does it take us?
All the way back to the prophecy. To the very first when he heard the prophecy.
Before then.
No.
Oh yeah, to the memory with
Yeah.
Petunia. Childhood.
To before they even go to Hogwarts.
Yeah.
So when we see Snape at Spinner's End, who lives nearby?
Lily.
Potter.
Not the
I
Potters.
mean the
Lily and
the
Petunia.
The Evanses. Okay? Because Lily is friends with him. And what do we find out about Petunia?
He wanted to go to Hogwarts.
She wrote a letter.
She wrote letters to Dumbledore. She begged and pleaded. And no. Okay? So, memories skip back and forth. We find out about the prophecy. We find out what Snape agrees to do. We find out that Dumbledore promises never to reveal his secret. And Dumbledore says, to reveal the greatest thing about you? I mean, man. We find out what happened to Dumbledore's hand. What's he say? I was sorely tempted.
Big mistake.
What does that mean?
He wanted to
Even now, what? He's not worthy of having the three. Okay? So, we keep going. Dumbledore says Draco's soul isn't damaged. And Snape's like, what about my soul? What about my soul? Notice Snape knows what will happen if he kills Dumbledore. Rip! And Dumbledore says, you alone know whether it will harm your soul to help an old man avoid pain and humiliation. In other words, Dumbledore is implying there's a difference between killing out of hatred and killing out of mercy. And I don't think he's talking, and I could be entirely wrong here, but I don't think Rowling is talking about euthanasia. What is Dumbledore essentially at the beginning of this book? He's a dead man walking, right? Why? He has this disease. It will not stop. It's just going to take a matter of time. And then what happens just before the lightning struck tower? He drinks all the potion, which is poison. How do we know it's poison? What does he tell Harry when they get back? Find Snape. Find Snape. Snape's the only one who can stop this. It's not going to stop this. Snape has slowed this, but he can't stop it. Okay? So when Snape does Avada Kedavra, what's he merely doing? It's like somebody who's in a hospital room who is all plugged up to everything, and the doctors say, we can keep them alive. Or what? We can let death take its course. Is it merely a matter of delaying death, or is it a matter of adding life? If you're adding life, that's something. If you're merely delaying death, then death is the natural state for that individual. And it's just electrons that are keeping them going. Okay? Running out of time. So, Harry goes into the forest. Why? That's the final thing. What were we told in the final memory? Not quite the final memory, but close. What did Snape say about Harry?
Pig for slaughter.
Pig for slaughter. Okay? So he goes into the forest, and as he walks towards the forest, he goes by people. He's got the cloak on. He hears people. He hears Hermione. He hears Neville, comforting people. He tells Neville, you see the snake? You kill that. And we're told he was home. Hogwarts was the first and best home he had known. He and Voldemort and Snape, the abandoned boys, had all found home here. What is that telling us? What is Harry doing at that point?
They're all alike, but different.
Why different? Just this statement.
because they chose
Just this statement.
Well, they all have a similar background. They all find.
Bingo. Harry is identifying with Snape and Voldemort. They were all abandoned. Harry wasn't literally abandoned, right? But Voldemort and Snape were. But he feels like he's been abandoned. Why is that significant? I think that's why, plus what happens in King's Cross, that's why Harry comes back and says what to Voldemort? Try for a little remorse. Because what does Harry see? Skip everything that he talks about with Dumbledore in King's Cross. What does he see in King's Cross?
Voldemort's actual soul.
He sees the bit that was in him. And what's it look like?
Dead.
It's not dead.
What? Like a writhing.
It's
fetus.
live. It's writhing. It's like something that has been scalded. And notice, what does Harry want to do? I mean, when he wakes up, first of all, he doesn't see anything, right? It's just all white, but he doesn't see that. And then he realizes, wait, I have a body, and he does this. And he doesn't have glasses on. And he does this, and there's no scar. Why?
His soul's untarnished.
Bingo. He's perfect. Okay? And he hears the thing, and what does he want to do, we're told?
Help it.
He wants to help it. So, what does Dumbledore tell him at the end? Don't pity the living. Pity what? Don't pity the dead.
Pity the living. And
More than
those
that.
who can live without love.
Those who live without love. That's why when he comes back, Harry says, try for a little remorse. Be a man. Not be a wizard. What's he appealing to? Something that Voldemort doesn't think he has. Humanity. Be a man. Notice, go back to the beginning. What will it take? Real contrition. And Hermione says, man, it'll destroy you. And what does Voldemort do? No. Why? Because he was a rape baby and is incapable of love, if Rowling really believes that, she has got the most warped mind in the world, in my opinion. Okay? So get to the end. Voldemort's dead, right? The world is a new world, so to speak. What do we see Harry doing since it's 11:16? He walks around and people do what? They want to touch him. What happens immediately upon Voldemort's death? The sun rises. Okay? It shines through the window, and what colors do we see? Red and gold. It's like Easter morning. I'm not saying it's literally Easter morning. We don't know how much time passes, but it's like Easter morning because death has been defeated, life has been reaffirmed, people are reaching out to their Savior to touch him, etc. Right? And then we get the epilogue. Why the epilogue? Why is that significant?
Closure.
Do we not get enough closure at the end of the Battle of Hogwarts and Voldemort
You
defeat
get
and everything?
Draco's closure.
Everyone wants their own.
Say that again, Travis.
You get Draco's closure.
We get this idea that even enemies cannot become drinking buddies. But what does Draco do?
Show respect.
He gives him that nod of the head. Who else lives other than Draco? It's
Draco's
implied, I
parents.
think.
Draco's parents.
His parents are still alive.
And now free.
Because what did Narcissa do?
Saved Harry's life, essentially.
How?
By saying he's dead.
She lied. Even though every other word out of Voldemort's mouth, every other sentence out of Voldemort's mouth seems to be what? Don't lie to the Dark Lord. He always knows, And she lies. Is Draco still alive? Yes. He's dead, my lord. Okay. Compare all of that with the film.
Story of revenge.
Because what's the film do?
Revenge.
It's all revenge. You don't get any of that turn. You don't get any of that that redemption aspect to it.
I
Okay?
think he's in the end in Draco. But
Yeah, but I mean the
yeah.
Voldemort stuff. All right, we're out of time, obviously.
That's that.
Thank you all. I've enjoyed it. Hope you liked it.